The only Shedeur question that anybody should be asking is, would they go to Zappy before they'd go to Shedeur? And I think the answer is yes. They do not want to see Shedeur Sanders anytime. It's why every day there's a new leak coming from that building about how unprepared he is and how he's walking around the building not doing what he's supposed to. You think the Rex Ryan thing that came out the other day just came off the top of his head and he made it up? No, that's what everybody has been hearing. Daryl Ryder sat in your seat yesterday, said the exact same thing. Shedeur Sanders, you guys can make it the focal point of the YouTube chat, and we appreciate all of you guys for tuning in real time. The numbers are off the charts. But YouTube, the fact that you guys are investing so much time in a guy that was the fourth string quarterback before they traded away the guy they really wanted to be the starting quarterback should tell you all you need to know. Your dude fell for a reason. There is a reason that you guys thought he was top 5 and the rest of the league thought he didn't belong in the NFL. You guys were wrong. Everybody in the NFL was right, and there's a reason they were right.
They exposed themselves in a major way, and Browns fans caught it instantly. Anthony Lima didn't just miss the mark, he blew straight past it, and the reaction tells you everything you need to know. When you openly call for Shedeur Sanders to be fired and then act surprised when the backlash hits, that's not bravery, that's recklessness. Browns fans are tired of lazy takes pretending to be analysis, and this one crossed a clear line. Anthony Lima's take on Shedeur Sanders wasn't just wrong, it was careless and emotionally driven. Labeling a young quarterback as the worst in the NFL without acknowledging context, opportunity, or actual game conditions isn't analysis. It's venting.
You guys are all telling me they're going to be terrible, that there's nothing they can do to improve the offense, and that the quarterback play, we can't be desperate, but yet it's not desperate to roll out the worst quarterback room in football next year.
I'm never going to get to the college football game that we wanted to get to.
That seems kind of...
Ignoring protection breakdowns, conservative play design, limited reps, and situational usage shows a complete lack of effort to explain the football. That's not breaking things down for fans. That's throwing a player under the bus to release frustration. And let's be honest, what followed exposed the weakness of the argument even more. The immediate walk back, the hesitation mid-thought, the sudden shift in tone. That's not confidence. If you truly believe your take, you don't start backpedaling before you even finish the sentence. Panic like that only shows you weren't prepared to defend the position in the first place.
Like, that's not even
You're
debatable.
Not paying anything for Shedeur Sanders right now.
Right,
Shedeur
and
Sanders
you got what you paid for. You got the worst quarterback in the NFL this year. You got exactly...
No, that's a lie. That is what I'm saying. The worst quarterback in it.
What we saw in real time was frustration dressed up as confidence. Saying you got what you paid for without explaining scheme, protection calls, coaching intent, or game flow is pure narrative feeding. Fans don't learn anything from that. They're just being pushed toward a conclusion someone already decided on emotionally, and that's exactly why people are pushing back so hard. Meanwhile, Ken Carman is doing what actual analysts are supposed to do. He's looking at timing, usage, reps, and situations. He's pointing out that Shedeur Sanders didn't walk into clean starts or favorable matchups. He stepped into limited snaps, often on short notice, sometimes against defenses that weren't even game planning for him specifically. That context matters, whether people like it or not. You cannot fairly judge a quarterback without acknowledging when he played, who he played against, and what responsibilities he was actually given.
It's desperate and even dumber. Like, this guy's a fifth-round pick. If he works out, he works out. But if he doesn't, he's a fifth-round pick. That's the way it goes, okay? Well, I don't want to say that because then I'll get killed for saying that. He's a back-end draft guy that if he works out, great. If he doesn't, fine. You want to invest?
Was he allowed to push the ball? Was the playbook open? Was the protection holding up? Was the game plan built around him, or was he just surviving snaps? These details separate real evaluation from lazy criticism. And here's the part that keeps getting ignored on purpose. Organizations do not invest serious money over multiple seasons in quarterbacks they believe are hopeless. Teams with real evaluators do not burn tens of millions of dollars just to prove a point. That investment alone tells you they saw growth potential, developmental upside, and value worth protecting. That fact alone destroys the worst quarterback label. Ken Carman's approach stays calm, grounded, and rooted in reality.
You saw Shedeur Sanders play, 6-7 games, whatever, and you don't want to give him an opportunity. You saw this dude who's been in the league for 5 years start 6 games with a great team. And he took a lot of L's too. But those 6 games make you look at him and say, you want to give him $50 million? You are a pure bozo, Anthony. Pure bozo.
You have to take chances on certain guys if you want to get a leg up on other teams. If you don't,
He isn't chasing shock value or angry sound bites. He's sticking to facts, numbers, and situational football. And that's exactly why the contrast between him and other Browns media voices keeps getting sharper. One side is explaining football, the other is just reacting emotionally. This is where a large portion of Browns media keeps losing credibility. There's a clear and consistent pattern of blaming everybody except the people actually in charge. Instead of questioning coaching decisions, roster construction, scheme failures, or years of organizational instability, it's easier to pile everything onto one young quarterback and call it a day. That's not accountability, that's deflection. That type of coverage is lazy, plain and simple. It's not bold, it's not brave, and it's definitely not honest. Fans can hear the difference between frustration and insight. And once a media voice starts sounding more angry than informed, the mask slips. Browns fans aren't stupid, and they're done being talked down to. And just when it felt like Anthony Lima couldn't make the situation worse, he somehow did it in the same breath. Talking about investing over $50 million and then questioning why he's even watching the Browns this year tells you everything about his mindset. That's not analysis. That's quitting on the product. When a media voice openly admits they've checked out emotionally, everything that follows becomes poisoned by bias. Once you stop watching with curiosity and start watching with resentment, your takes are no longer about football. They're about your mood. And fans can feel that instantly. This isn't hate and it's not personal. These are just facts. Shedeur Sanders has been judged unfairly, selectively criticized, and used as a lightning rod for frustrations that go far beyond him. While some Browns media continue to protect bad narratives, instead of telling the full story, fans are finally calling it out. And that, more than anything, is what has certain voices uncomfortable right now.
good enough to stand pat. Then why do you think it's crazy to survey the landscape around the NFL?
Because you're telling me to give up money and a guy that the only argument you're giving me is if he plays any bit like the 6 games he started over 4 years.
If 32 teams felt like you would, or 31, then nobody would pick up Malik Willis. So who picks him up? Who gets him?
31 other teams.
Who goes after him?
31 other teams are having a deeper conversation other than, you got to give me something to sell me on Malik Willis, Anthony. You have to give me an argument.
I've watched him play in games that matter, and he's been pretty good.
When did you watch him play in games that matter?
This year, he came in for Jordan Love this year against the Bears and played pretty damn well.
He started one game for Jordan Love.
And he came in relief in another game.
He started one game, and he came in relief. Great. So he came in a game.
So nobody should pick up Malik Willis, judging by your scouting.
That's not what I'm saying.
So then who does?
That's not what I'm saying.
You're not making any sense.
But your argument sucks.
So
that's the point I'm making.
So how do the Browns get better quarterbacks?
So, hey, Malik Willis.
What is Ken Carman's argument?
Malik Willis.
You just told me.
He's already decided the season is over, and once you make that decision, every single move automatically looks stupid to you. That's the lens this is coming from. When you quit mentally before a snap is even played, everything turns into desperation in your head. But let's be real. What's more desperate than giving up before the season even starts? If you don't believe in Shedeur Sanders, fine. That's allowed. But where is the fair breakdown? Where is the same patience that gets preached nonstop for other quarterbacks around the league? Where's the consistency? Because right now, the standard clearly changes depending on who we're talking about. Why is it always panic when it's Shedeur Sanders, but suddenly, wait and see when it's someone else? That double standard keeps showing up, and nobody wants to explain it. Calling this the worst quarterback room in football is another lazy swing based on vibes, preseason emotions, and fear of being wrong later. That's not evaluation, that's insecurity talking. This is the same league where quarterbacks develop at completely different speeds, especially when they aren't dropped into perfect situations with elite protection, clean pockets, and continuity. Development isn't linear, and anyone pretending otherwise isn't being honest about how football actually works. Shedeur Sanders hasn't been given stability, elite protection, or a settled offensive system, yet he's already being judged like a finished product. Why? Why does he have to prove everything immediately while other quarterbacks get years of grace, excuses, and patience? That imbalance keeps getting ignored, and fans are noticing it more every week. You can't keep saying don't be desperate while demanding instant certainty at quarterback. Those two ideas directly contradict each other. You don't get patience and immediate answers at the same time. That's not how player development works, and saying it out loud doesn't magically make it true. This is where Ken Carman actually makes sense, because his point is grounded in reality, not frustration. A later round quarterback is exactly what he's describing. A low-risk, flexible investment. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you move on without crippling your future. That's smart roster management. That's how teams stay adaptable instead of trapped. Would you rather roll the dice cheaply or lock yourself into another expensive mistake you can't escape for years? That's the real question, and dodging it doesn't make it disappear. Carmen isn't blindly hyping Shedeur Sanders. He's explaining why this approach isn't reckless. He's laying out the logic behind flexibility, patience, and proper evaluation. And that's exactly where Anthony Lima completely loses the plot. Why is patience suddenly unacceptable when it comes to Shedeur Sanders? That's the question Browns media keeps ducking. Until they answer it honestly, this criticism will continue to sound more like fear than football insight. This is where the logic fully collapses and deserves to be called out clearly. You watch Shedeur Sanders in a small stretch of games with limited reps, limited rhythm, and no real chance to settle in. And somehow that's enough to shut the door forever. No growth window, no second look, no allowance for development.
Looking at?
I'll give you numbers.
What are you
I'll
looking
give you
at?
numbers. He came in 4 games. He came in 3 in spot duty, coming in for Jordan Love. So you come into games that they're getting ready for other quarterbacks and that they haven't seen a lot of you. So he's obviously played well enough. We can give him $50 million to the guy over 2 years
this is why,
and invest in him.
Man, look at his face. Look at his face. These are the anybody. Anthony Lima is a part of the anybody but Shadur campaign, along with Mary Kay Cabot, along with Jason Lloyd. These people are exposed, man. They expose themselves.
But at the same time, another quarterback gets years in the league, finally starts games on a strong roster, struggles plenty, and suddenly that small sample becomes proof of value. That same player gets rewarded, paid, and protected by excuses. How does that make sense? Where is the standard? Why does one quarterback get judged like a finished failure after a few appearances, while another gets rewarded for simply surviving on a good team? That's not evaluation. That's favoritism dressed up as analysis. Refusing to take smart risks while demanding certainty at quarterback is the fastest way to stay stuck in the middle forever. Every team that gets ahead in this league takes chances on talent before it's obvious. That's how progress actually happens. Meanwhile, Anthony Lima seems completely comfortable pushing for big money to be tied to a player who has already shown you his ceiling over multiple seasons. That's backward thinking, and it's exactly how teams stay stuck in the middle. You don't win in this league by paying top dollar for what already failed somewhere else. You win by betting early when the cost is low and the upside is still real. Acting scared of that reality isn't caution, it's paralysis. And paralysis is how franchises spin their wheels for years. The league doesn't reward fear, it rewards timing, projection, and the willingness to take controlled chances before something becomes obvious to everyone else. What makes this whole debate even more frustrating is how simple it actually is. If your quarterback room isn't good enough, you have to try something different. That's not controversial. That's basic team building. You don't improve by recycling the same ideas, the same names, and the same logic while hoping the result magically changes. Giving Shedeur Sanders a real opportunity isn't reckless. It's logical. It's a controlled risk. It's the exact kind of move smart teams make when they understand flexibility matters more than false certainty. You evaluate properly, you give reps, you let development happen, and you see what you actually have. And if it doesn't work, you move on without crippling your future. That's the part that keeps getting ignored on purpose. This isn't about blind belief or emotional attachment. It's about smart football decisions and managing risk correctly instead of pretending safety exists where it doesn't. Until Browns media stops pretending fear equals wisdom, they'll keep missing the point. And Shedeur Sanders will keep being judged unfairly before he's even allowed the room to grow. That cycle has been playing out in Cleveland for years, and people still act confused about why nothing changes. This exchange also shows exactly where Anthony's argument collapses under its own weight. He keeps asking whether the quarterback room is good enough, but he never clearly defines what good enough even means. That matters because without a standard, every argument becomes flexible depending on the narrative you want to push. One minute he's saying teams around the league don't believe in certain quarterbacks. The next minute he's leaning on the idea that other teams are quietly having deep conversations about Malik Willis. Which one is it? Both can't be true at the same time, and pretending they are just muddies the conversation. If Malik Willis were truly viewed as a serious long-term answer, he wouldn't be bouncing around as a backup and emergency option. That's just reality. A few relief appearances and one decent showing don't suddenly erase years of film. They don't rewrite evaluations. They don't change how teams actually see a player. Yet Anthony treats those moments like they wipe the slate clean. That's textbook cherry-picking, and it completely undercuts the credibility of the argument. What makes it worse is how differently Shedeur Sanders is treated in the same conversation. In the same breath, Shadur is judged harshly for a short stretch of games with limited reps, limited rhythm, and no stability. Meanwhile, Malik Willis gets defended and praised based on even smaller flashes and far more favorable conditions. That inconsistency is impossible to ignore. Why does one quarterback need to prove everything immediately while another gets endless benefit of the doubt? That's the core issue, and no one wants to address it honestly. The standards keep shifting, and they always seem to shift in the same direction. Shedeur Sanders hasn't been handed stability, elite coaching continuity, or a clean offensive system. Yet he's still expected to look perfect or be written off entirely. No margin for growth, no patience, no allowance for development. At the same time, Willis gets praise for stepping in behind a strong roster, with structure, support, and protection, and simply doing okay. That's not a fair comparison, and pretending it is only exposes how flimsy the evaluation process has become. That's not a fair comparison at all, and if we're being honest, it never was. Shedeur Sanders has shown more command, more confidence, and more upside in a limited window than Malik Willis has shown over multiple years in the league. That's not hype, that's what the film actually shows. So the real question is simple. Why is Anthony Lima so eager to sell one while rushing to dismiss the other? The most revealing moment comes when Anthony's argument starts folding in on itself. He says teams wouldn't pick up Malik Willis, then immediately turns around and argues that teams actually would pick him up. He demands proof, then rejects the proof the moment it's presented. That's not debate. That's confusion happening out loud. When someone has to be told your argument doesn't make sense, it's usually because there's no solid ground left to stand on. You can hear it when the points stop progressing and start looping. That's what happens when a take isn't built on logic, but on the need to defend a position that's already falling apart. Favoring Malik Willis over Shedeur Sanders isn't bold or forward-thinking. It's lazy analysis that avoids taking a real chance on growth. It's safer to back something familiar even if it hasn't worked than to admit upside still exists somewhere else. That mindset is exactly how teams stay stuck, recycling comfort instead of chasing improvement. If the Browns truly want to get better, they cannot keep choosing comfort over upside. And whether Anthony likes it or not, Shedeur Sanders represents upside that hasn't been fully tested yet. That's not a weakness, that's an opportunity. Writing him off early doesn't make you smart. It just means you never wanted to be patient in the first place. This isn't about pretending Shadur is a guaranteed answer. It's about acknowledging reality. He hasn't been given a full runway. He hasn't had continuity. He hasn't had a system designed around him. Yet despite all that, he's shown poise, control, and flashes that suggest there's more there worth exploring. Meanwhile, Malik Willis has had years in the league, multiple chances, and clearer looks, yet the ceiling hasn't moved much. That doesn't make him a bad player, but it does make the comparison unfair. Acting like one relief appearance suddenly outweighs a larger body of work is selective memory at its finest. What makes this even more obvious is how differently patience gets handed out. One quarterback gets endless grace, benefit of the doubt, and optimistic projection. The other gets panic, urgency, and dismissal before the evaluation even finishes. Fans aren't blind to that imbalance, no matter how much it gets talked around. By the end of it, Anthony Lima talked himself in circles and exposed some of his weakest takes yet. The contradictions piled up, the logic thinned out, and the frustration became louder than the facts. And the contrast in how Shedeur Sanders is treated compared to others couldn't be clearer. One gets patience, the other gets panic. One gets context, the other gets blame. And Browns fans are smart enough to see exactly what's happening. They hear when analysis turns into emotion, and they notice when standards keep shifting depending on who's under the microscope. If you want real Browns talk without the noise, without the fear-based takes, and without the circular arguments, stay locked in. Because honest football conversations matter, especially when it comes to young quarterbacks still trying to find their footing. Now be real. Do you still take Anthony Lima seriously after this, or has he completely lost the plot?